Hello, David here, and welcome to this tutorial, where you will learn how to create assembly product types in Visual Components. When following any tutorial, check the lesson on the Visual Components Academy, and if the Download Files option appears, you can download the example files. Before we start, later on in this lesson, we are going to use an add-on available from the Visual Components forum. Installing the add-on requires restarting the application, so we could install the add-on now before we start. To download the add-on, in the Help tab, search for AutoAssembly and open the forum result, or use the link in the video description. Then exit the application and extract the AutoAssembly folder into your My Commands folder. Note that for Visual Components 4.9, this add-on should be placed in the Python 2 folder inside your My Commands folder. Then start the application and the add-on should appear in the Process tab in the Helper Tools group. The assembly product type is a subcategory of product types that represent an assembly. It defines how to form an assembly from multiple product types. Creating a single assembly can create multiple product instances, meaning that one assembly can include multiple product types. To begin, in the Process or Home tabs, if we go to the eCatalog, Models by Type, Products and Containers, in this assembly we will have an FEMAT box, and using the PNP tool, we will drag and drop it into our layout. So that is one product. And then scroll down and add a pack of chips and a can. So now we have 3 products that will form our assembly. And finally, we will add a Euro pallet as well. Then in the Process tab, click on Products above to enable the product type editor. Right now, there are no products available, so we need to create 4 product types for each of the 4 products that will be inside our assembly. So click on the green Product Definition control and click Add Product Type, which automatically adds a flow group as well. And then click on Add Product Type 3 more times for a total of 4 product types. Then double-clicking on the product type names, we can rename them based on the hierarchy of the assembly we will create. First is a pallet, second is a box, then chips and a can. Then selecting the pallet product type from its properties over on the right, we will pick the pallet component from the 3D world to define the component URI. Then repeat the process for the remaining product types. And now we will create the assembly product type by clicking Add Assembly and double-clicking on it, rename it to, for example, Assembly of Parts without spaces. Then selecting the assembly, click on the pen icon to open the assembly editor. Note that if we click on the Layout tab, we can at any time return to the layout environment. Let's return to the assembly editor environment, where currently we have the assembly of parts product type. And if we expand the assembly of parts tree on the left, we can see the main step. A step represents an assembly step containing parts that are usually assembled or disassembled together as a single production phase. The yellow box inside the assembly editor represents a slot inside the main step, which is automatically created whenever you create an assembly. If we select the main step on the left, note that its name appears in the properties on the right, indicating that we have this step selected, and we can see the location of the step in the assembly of parts product type. If we then select the assembly slot, the yellow box inside the assembly editor, note the name from its properties, indicating that now we have the Step 1 assembly slot selected. An assembly slot is the definition of a single logical storage location, which includes position and orientation and what product types should or can be placed into it. In the properties of this assembly slot, we can see that the slot has no product type, as the default product type is null, so we can change it to be pallet. If we return it to null, the default bound dimensions display the dimensions of the slot, as represented by the yellow box. If we change the X dimension to 200, the representation of the assembly slot will change. Right now we don't want to have just the slot here, represented by this box, so we will change it to an actual product type, so again we will select the pallet. And zooming out, we can now see the pallet in this slot. And when we are adding a new assembly slot, we can apply product filters to it. So clicking Add Product Filter, select Product Type Filter, and set accepted product types to pallet. And we can also specify the accepted flow groups. So now we will double click on the main Step 1 on the left and rename it to pallet. Then right clicking on this pallet step, select Add Step. And note that using this menu, we can also rename, copy or paste a step. Then selecting this new step on the left, in the assembly editor environment, there is a new assembly slot, represented by the default yellow box. Using the Move tool, holding the left mouse button, we can drag the slot upwards along its Z-axis, and holding the Shift key, drag the mouse to align the slot with the surface of the pallet. So now the slot is 144 mm higher on the Z-axis. Then select the slot in the assembly editor, and note again from its properties that the assembly slot is now selected. We want this slot to be a box, so we will change the default product type to be the box, and rotate it 90 degrees around the Z-axis, so we can later place another box beside it. The order index defines when the parts will enter the assembly, in ascending or descending order. Right now we will keep the order index as it is, and when we automatically add parts, they will be in ascending order. And we can add a product type filter, and set the accepted product types to box. Right now we have just one assembly slot, so we are going to create another slot. Using the slot adding and centering tools, in the upper right corner of the assembly editor, we can add a slot or create a pattern of slots with templates for linear, block or pinwheel. We are going to use a pattern, so before we continue, a quick tip on this Add Slot option. With the Step 1 selected on the left, clicking Add Slot will create a new slot. And if a step already exists, the order index will increase by 1. But the new slot will not inherit its product type, so the default yellow box is used. Having the Move tool enabled helps to visualize this. We will right-click on this example slot and delete it, and then selecting the Step 1 assembly slot in the assembly editor and clicking Add Slot again, the new slot will assume the same product type and be placed at an offset, so we can visualize the addition of the same product type. And again, the order index will increase by 1, and the same product type filter will also be applied. And again, we will delete this example slot. So now we are going to create the next slot using a pattern. With the Step 1 assembly slot selected in the assembly editor, selecting linear, in the X direction, we would like to have a count of 2 slots, and define the spacing between the slots, so along the X-axis 100, and we could also increase the levels to, for example, 4 levels. And using every second level, we can mirror them, so turn clockwise or counterclockwise. or mirror in Y or X directions. Right now we will keep it at same and bring the levels back down to 1, then click Apply. And if we hold the Control key and select both slots, there is the option to center slots. Because the first slot was created in the origin position, and then the second slot was created in relation to the position of the first slot, they are not really centered. So if we want to center them based on the main slot, click on Center Slots and the boxes will jump to the center of the palette. And using the assembly visualization options, we can also change the view options. We can show selected step with ghosted parents. So you see the parent now, the palette, in this violet color. Or we can show the whole assembly, or then show selected step and other steps are ghosted. Right now, with just 2 steps, there is no difference between the first and third options. Let's rename this step as boxes, and then right-click to add another step here inside the box. Then rotating the camera forward a little so we can see the inside of the box. Grab the origin and place it here. And selecting the assembly slot inside the editor, set the product type as chips and add a product type filter and set accepted product types to chips. The location of the chips seems to be okay. Then right-clicking on the slot, select Copy and then Paste. Then grab the origin of the copy and place it in a similar location in the other box. Note that the product type filter chips has also been applied to the copy, and the order index has increased by 1. If we compare the z-axis height of both slots, we can see they are the same. The placing of these slots looks good. So then we can change the step name to chips, which now has 2 slots in it for 2 packs of chips. And then to add the other products inside the boxes, when we create them, we want them to be parallel to the chips from the hierarchy point of view and have the chips and cans in the boxes attached to the same parent. An example of this we will show later when we set up a hierarchy using the Attach tool before using the Auto Assembly add-on. So we then right-click on the Boxes step and click Add Step once more. And dragging the origin of this new slot, again, place it in a suitable position in the box. If we have the assembly visualization options set to show selected step with ghosted parents, and we are not sure on which side of the box to place this, we can quickly select the chip step to confirm its placement and place this new slot on the other side. Or if the visualization options are set to show selected step and other steps are ghosted, we are able to see the ghosted outline of the chip step, and then we can see where we can place this next step. Then rename this new step as cans, and selecting the slot, set the product type as can, and add a product type filter and set accepted product types to can. Then using the slot adding and centering tools, create a linear pattern. In the X direction, there is a count of 2 slots. We can add a spacing of 10 between the slots along the X axis, and then increase the count to, for example, 3. We could also use a block pattern with 1 on the Z axis, 2 on the Y axis, and 3 along the X axis, and then click Apply. And using the Select tool from the ribbon above to check the properties of the cans, note that the product type filter can has also been applied to the copies created by the pattern option, and the order index has also increased. Then using the Select tool, click and drag to select all the cans in this step and use the Center Slots control to center the cans in the bounding box of this box. And with these cans still selected, right-click and select Copy and then Paste. And switching back to the Move Manipulation mode, drag the origin to move the copied cans to the other box. Or once we have the products in place, we could hold Shift to align the cans on the Z-axis with the inside of the box. And if we then zoom out and select the Assembly of Parts step on the left, we can check the placing of the products inside the box and apply any adjustments that might still be required. This now looks good. We can check the order indexing of these slots. Using the Select tool and selecting a can slot in the assembly editor, the order index for this can is 12, and clicking through the rest of the cans, the order index shows how the cans have been added based on this descending order. And if we want to assemble all these products, then we could give them all an order index of 7. Then based on their availability, they could all be imported at the same time. So this was the manual way of creating an assembly product type. But there is also an automatic way to do it, which is much simpler, using the AutoAssembly add-on, which we will utilize later. So we will close the assembly editor using the Close button in the upper right corner of the panel. And now we are back in the Layout view, where we have the components we added from the eCatalog, which are just dedicated to different product types. If we want the assembly product type, we need to open the editor to view the editor environment. So now we can create this assembly product type from a feeder. So again, we close the assembly editor. And going to the eCatalog, from PMFlow Components, add a feeder process. If we quickly check the Product Type Editor panel, we will see that when we added the feeder process, that a new flow group and product type were added. We will delete these later. And returning to the 3D world, from the properties of the feeder process, select the Product Creator tab, and as a part, select the assembly of parts, and for we created. And if we press play to run the simulation, the assembly is created. And resetting the simulation, we can now delete the feeder process, because now we are going to create an assembly the automatic way, using the AutoAssembly add-on. And before doing that, we will remove the manual assembly we just created. So in the Product Type Editor, right-click on the Flow Group 1 item, and click Delete, and click Yes to confirm, and do the same to the entry that adding the feeder process created. And now, in the 3D World view, we will create what we created in the Assembly Editor panel. Begin by cloning the box, and using the Move tool, grab the boxes by their origin, place them on the palette, and rotate them 90 degrees around their Z-axis. And follow the same pattern for the chips. Clone and place inside the boxes. We can use the top view to check the placement of things. This looks good. And repeat the process again for the cans. So let's say this is our product, which includes a pallet, 2 boxes, and products inside the boxes. Before we use the automatic method, we need to attach products. In the Home tab, using the Select tool, select a can, and from the hierarchy group above, select Attach, and attach it to the box. Note the message appearing in the output panel below. Then repeat the process for the chips. Then select the box and attach it to the pallet. And repeat the process for the other box. Then returning to the Process tab, from the Helper Tools group, click on Auto Assembly, which will automatically create the assembly product type for us. So first, selecting the main parent, the pallet, and the add-on will check for all attached parts. So the parent, the source, is a component, which could also be a node or a feature. Right now we have components here, and leave checked, find similar products by name, and use existing products. And then click Create Assembly and close the add-on. If we create an assembly using the Auto Assembly add-on, it's a lot faster than creating it manually. In the product editor on the left, we can see a EuroPallet assembly product type, and 4-part product types have been created. Assembly editor, we can see that the EuroPallet assembly product type is exactly similar to what we created in the 3D world. Of course, this is the actual assembly in the assembly editor. Of the EuroPallet assembly product type on the left, EuroPallet step, then parallel steps, of course, 2 boxes, and a can. Type, the product type filter has also been created. And for this step, the can, it would be nice to have 6 of them. So then an assembly slot, select the pattern option and choose block pattern. And similar to before, with 1 on the Z-axis, 2 along the Y-axis, and 3 along the X-axis, and then click Apply. Using the Select tool to select all 6 cans, then using the Move tool, grab the origin and place them in the required position in the box. For the cans in the other box, create a block, then select all the cans and place them in the box. EuroPallet assembly product type on the left. I guess this looks familiar, and we create this in a much quicker way using the Auto Assembly add-on. So now you know how to create an assembly product type. And this concludes the lesson. Thank you for watching.